The interview. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. Selena stepped out, her heels clicking nervously against the marble floor of the Mafia headquarters. Her resume was neatly tucked into her bag, though she knew she didn't need it. Her skills spoke for themselves. French, English, Italian, Korean. She spoke them all with precision. And today, she was here for one of the biggest interviews of her life. Word on the street was that the Mafia boss, Kang Min-jun, needed a personal translator. Rumor said he never allowed anyone too close. He hated physical touch. Even his men bowed from a distance. The pay was more than she could ever dream of, but so was the danger. Min-jun wasn't just a businessman. He was the most feared man in Seoul's underworld. Her nerves were already stretched thin. This wasn't just any job. The Mafia boss himself was interviewing. She inhaled deeply, whispering to herself, "You can do this, Selena. Just walk in there, speak, and prove you're the best." But just as she rounded the corner, she didn't notice the figure striding swiftly toward her. Her heel caught the edge of the carpet. "Ah," she gasped, stumbling forward. The leather strap of her bag slipped from her shoulder, papers tumbling as she lurched ahead. In her panic to steady herself, her hand flew out, landing against a broad, solid chest. It was like slamming into a wall of iron. Her eyes snapped upward, and time seemed to freeze. The man she had collided with wasn't just anyone. Sharp jawline, piercing eyes that could slice through steel. His presence radiated authority, the kind that made lesser men shrink back. Her palm was still pressed against his chest. The steady thud of his heartbeat beneath the fabric made her breath catch. And then the silence hit. Two guards at the end of the corridor stiffened instantly. Their hands twitched toward their jackets, as if they expected her to be dragged away that very second. Selena's stomach dropped. She realized, with dawning horror, who she had just touched. Kang Min-jun, the Mafia boss. No one touched him. Ever. His eyes lowered slowly to her hand still resting against his suit, then rose back to her face. They were cold, unreadable, like twin shards of ice. Selena jerked her hand back as if burned, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you, sir." Her heart froze. "Oh, you are so fucked, Selena," she whispered to herself. The man before her stood tall, dressed in a sharp black suit. His expression was icy, his gaze dark and dangerous. She had touched him. Selena's hand snapped back instantly, but it was too late. A chilling silence filled the corridor as two of his guards stiffened. Min-jun's voice was low and lethal. "Who are you?" His voice was low, dangerously calm. Selena swallowed hard, forcing her trembling lips to move. I'm here for the translator interview." His eyes narrowed. "You? Touch me and expect a job." The corner of her mouth curved slightly, despite the fear crawling up her spine. "What if I'm the best translator in this room, sir?" she asked boldly. The faintest flicker crossed his face, annoyance mixed with curiosity. He stepped closer, his voice sharp. "We shall see about that." Hours passed. 50 candidates filed in and out of the grand conference hall. Min-jun tested them one by one, men and women from every corner of the world. None satisfied him. Their accents faltered, their tones were stiff, their delivery lacked the precision he demanded. Selena was the last. When she spoke, her voice was calm, confident. She moved effortlessly from English to French, from Italian to Korean, weaving each language like silk. Her pronunciation was flawless, her intonation natural. Even his guards exchanged glances, impressed. "No one is as good as her, boss," one of them admitted, unable to hide his admiration. Selena turned to Min-jun, her eyes steady, lips curving into a knowing smile. "I told you, sir," she said softly. "I don't think anyone is better at translating than me." For a long moment he said nothing. His jaw tightened, the memory of her hand against his chest flashing in his mind. Every instinct screamed to reject her. But he needed her. Finally he spoke. "You're hired." His tone was cold, clipped. "But listen carefully." He leaned in slightly, his gaze sharp enough to pierce through her. "If you ever touch me again, Even by mistake, you're fired. Your job involves traveling to different countries. Me to translate, no questions asked. Selena's heart raced, but her smile widened in victory. Understood, boss. Min-jun turned away, dismissing her. Resume work on Monday. She exhaled in relief, barely able to contain her excitement. This was it, the job of her life. The pay was incredible, the position prestigious. The black car stopped in front of the towering Mafia headquarters. Selena stepped out, adjusting her blazer with trembling hands. She had replayed last week's events in her head over and over again. The accidental touch, the interview, and the cold warning from Kang Min-jun. This was her first day. The glass doors slid open and swallowed her into a world where silence carried weight, and every man in a suit carried a gun under his jacket. Eyes followed her as she walked across the marble floor, heels clicking like tiny hammers against the vast emptiness. At the top of the stairs stood Min-jun. Immaculate black suit. Dark hair swept neatly. His gaze locked on her, sharp and unreadable. Selena's breath caught in her throat, but she forced herself not to look away. Bring her in, he said, voice low but carrying authority that made the guards obey instantly. Selena expected an office. Instead, she was led into a grand conference room where two foreign businessmen sat, one Italian, one French. Min-jun sat at the head of the table, a glass of untouched whiskey before him. You're early, he said coolly, eyes flicking to her. Good. Then we can test your usefulness immediately. Her brows knitted. Test. Min-jun leaned back, folding his arms. She had important jobs to translate for him. This test was important to know her capability and strength. Translate for them. Every word. No mistakes. Selena's throat went dry. She steadied herself, stepping forward as the Italian man spoke first. His tone was slick, too confident. Selena listened carefully, then froze. He wasn't just speaking about shipments. He was twisting the numbers, deliberately inflating them. She glanced at Min-jun. He watched her, cold and calculating. Was this a trap? Selena swallowed her fear and translated, but with precision. He says the shipment contains 30 crates, but in truth, he's trying to pass them as 50. He's lying. The room fell silent. The Italian stiffened. What? Selena's heart pounded. She had overstepped. Maybe she had just signed her death sentence. But Min-jun's lips curved, not into a smile, but something sharper. Amusement? Intrigue? His gaze pinned the Italian man like a knife. You dare lie to me in my house? Within seconds, guards seized the man, dragging him out screaming. Selena's stomach churned, but she kept her head high. When the door shut, Min-jun's eyes returned to her. Good job, he said flatly. Selena straightened. I was hired to translate the truth. And that was the truth. When the meeting ended, Selena gathered her notes, her hands trembling now that the danger had passed. As she turned, her heel caught on the leg of a chair. Papers flew from her arms, scattering across the polished floor. She gasped, stumbling forward. And then it happened. Min-jun's hand shot out instinctively, stopping just short of her wrist. His fingers hovered in the air, trembling as though even the thought of contact burned him. For the briefest second, his mask slipped, something raw flickered in his eyes. But then, as if awakening from a nightmare, he jerked his hand back and stood abruptly. Selena, you fool, you've got to stop being clumsy around him, her inner thought warned her. Selena froze, breathless, the papers still at her feet. The men in the room exchanged looks. That evening, Min-jun summoned her to his office. The room was dim, the city lights spilling in through the tall windows. He didn't look at her at first, only poured himself a drink, swirling the amber liquid. Finally he spoke. His voice was low, edged with steel. Listen carefully, Selena. You may be good at your job. You may even be the best. But you are uncoordinated and extremely clumsy. Work on that, he turned, his gaze locking onto hers. If you ever lay those hands on me again, even by mistake, you're gone. Do you understand? Selena lifted her chin, her heartbeat loud in her ears. Yes, sir, I'm so sorry. I will work on that. Selena bit her lips. Selena sat on the floor of her small apartment, hair products spread out around her like treasures. A silk bonnet lay beside her, and she carefully twisted sections of her thick hair, applying oil with practiced hands. Her laptop was propped up on the coffee table, glowing with the familiar faces of her family on a group video call. Her mother sat proudly in her favorite wrapper, her father's glasses hung low on his nose, and her younger sister lounged across her bed with popcorn in hand. Selena, her mother beamed. Ah, see my daughter glowing. This new job is feeding you well? I can see it. Selena chuckled. Mom, it's just coconut oil. Her father leaned closer to the camera until only his forehead filled the screen. So, tell us this your new boss. How is he? Selena twisted another braid, rolling her eyes. Like a robot. He doesn't talk much, very strict, cold is an understatement, and he never wants to be touched by anyone, not even a handshake by mistake. Her sister burst out laughing, nearly choking on her popcorn. So, if you trip and fall on him, that's it, game over? Exactly, girl. I almost got fired one time, Selena snorted. Her mother clapped her hands. Ah, God forbid. What kind of human being doesn't like touch? Even Jesus touched people. Mom, Selena laughed, nearly dropping the comb. Her father shook his head, voice serious. Men who fear touch fear the world, my daughter. Be careful. Sometimes what people hide from says more than what they show. Selena's hands stilled for a moment on her braid. Her father's words always carried weight, and though she laughed with her sister's teasing, a small thought lodged itself in her heart. What exactly is her boss, Min-jun, hiding from? He was a dangerous and biggest Mafia Lord. The airport. The next morning, Selena wheeled her suitcase across Incheon Airport, her fresh twists bouncing neatly as she hurried to keep pace. Behind her, a silent wall of bodyguards followed Min-jun, who walked ahead in his immaculate black suit as if he owned the entire terminal. Selena jogged a little to keep up. Do you ever walk like a normal person? She muttered under her breath. Min-jun's sharp eyes slid to her. What was that? Nothing, sir, she said quickly, gripping her passport. At the VIP checkpoint, the officer held out his hand. Random check. Passports. Selena handed hers over smoothly, but when Min-jun extended his, the officer's eyes widened at the name. Recognition flashed. Fear too. Still, duty demanded he pat Min-jun down. I need to search you, sir. The air froze. Guards shifted, hands on their weapons. The officer swallowed hard, clearly regretting his words. Selena's heart raced. This could turn bloody in seconds. She stepped forward with a bright, nervous smile. Oh, cultural thing, she lied quickly in Korean. My boss doesn't allow physical touch. Strict tradition. Very offensive. But you can see, we're cleared. Right? The officer hesitated, sweat beading on his forehead under Min-jun's deadly stare. Finally, he stamped the passports and waved them through. Selena exhaled in relief, clutching her suitcase handle. You think you can speak for me? Min-jun's voice was soft, dangerous. Selena lifted her chin. Would you rather your men shoot up the airport? You're welcome. His lips twitched just slightly. Not a smile, but not ice either. Careful, Selena. That mouth of yours will put you in trouble one day. She rolled her eyes when he turned away. Or save your life. For the first time, she thought she saw it, his shoulders shaking, almost as if he was suppressing a smile. The deal had been sealed hours earlier in a sleek, smoke-filled bar tucked into the heart of another city. Selena had worked flawlessly, her translations weaving French, Italian, and Korean like silk threads. The foreign businessmen had been impressed. Contracts were signed, hands shaken. As glasses clinked and congratulations circled the table, Min-jun's partner, a broad man with a booming laugh, leaned in. Tonight, we celebrate, he declared. No excuses. You and your people will stay. Min-jun's jaw tightened. He hated detours, but refusing would risk offending a valuable ally. With a clipped nod, he agreed. The party begins. The bar transformed after dark. Music pulsed through the velvet-lined walls, lights shifting in seductive shades of red and gold. Waiters glided through the crowd with trays of champagne, and women dressed in glittering gowns hovered close, laughing too sweetly, leaning too near. Min-jun sat at a private table downstairs, his presence like a dark flame that drew moths. Beautiful women crowded around him, each one trying to catch his attention. But his eyes remained cold, his glass untouched. To him, their perfume was suffocating. They dared not to touch him, they just sat close to him if he would succumb to them. They were intolerable. He brushed them off with a single glance, each rejection sharper than a blade. Selena had slipped away, her laughter carried upstairs where the music was louder, freer. She wore a short black gown that hugged her curves and glittered under the shifting lights. Her hair framed her face, her lips glossy with wine, as she held a glass in one hand. Unlike the women downstairs, Selena wasn't trying to be noticed, she simply was. She danced by herself, hips swaying to the rhythm, movements playful and effortless. Men approached her one after another, drawn by her magnetic energy. But each time, she shook her head, waved them away with a smile, and kept moving. "No, thank you," she laughed at one bold man who tried again. "I'm enjoying myself just fine." She wasn't desperate. She wasn't pretending. She was alive, untouchable in her joy. Downstairs, from below, Min-jun's eyes found her. He hadn't meant to look, hadn't meant to care, but there she was. A flash of bare legs, the gleam of her smile, the freedom in her laughter. While the women beside him leaned in with rehearsed seduction, Selena danced alone, needing no one. For the first time in years, something stirred in his chest. Something dangerous. He told himself it was irritation, that she was drawing attention, being reckless. But as his gaze lingered, his hand tightened around the untouched glass. Why did she look happier without him than she ever did near him? Selena spun, raising her glass with a grin. Her gaze collided with his. "I hope you are enjoying yourself, boss," she shouted happily and waved at him. Min-jun sat in shadow, still as stone. The women around him blurred into nothing. It was just the two of them, across the room, across two different worlds. Her smile faltered, then curved into something softer, almost teasing. She lifted her glass slightly, as if to say cheers. Min-jun's jaw clenched. His chest burned, and then he looked away. The night grew heavier with music, the bass pounding through the walls of the luxurious bar. Selena's laughter rang above it all as she drained yet another glass of wine. Her cheeks flushed, her eyes sparkled, and her steps lost their steady rhythm. She was drunk. At first, it was harmless, her dance playful, her hair loose, her smile brighter than the neon lights overhead. But soon, shadows stirred in the crowd. Men who had been watching her from the corners now moved closer, eyes glinting with intent. One bold stranger stepped forward, his hand reaching for her waist. "Pretty girl, dance with me." Selena blinked at him, swaying. Then, without warning, she slammed her heel into his groin. He crumpled with a groan, clutching himself as laughter rippled through the watching crowd. Another man, larger, quicker, saw his chance. He grabbed her from behind, an arm locking tight around her waist. "Stop fighting, baby," he hissed. Selena twisted, fury flashing through her drunken haze. Her palm whipped across his face in a sharp slap. He snarled, rage twisting his features, and raised his hand to strike her back, only to freeze. A steel grip had caught his wrist midair. Min-jun. His dark eyes burned with silent fury. Without a word, his fist crashed into the man's jaw, sending him sprawling. His men appeared instantly, dragging both attackers away like garbage. The music kept thundering, but for Selena, the world had gone quiet. She tilted her head up at him, her lips curving into a drunken smile. "Thank you, boss." Min-jun's jaw tightened. "Are you drunk?" Selena giggled, swaying. "Maybe." And then her knees buckled. She staggered forward, nearly hitting the floor. Min-jun caught her arm sharply, holding her upright. His voice was low, dangerous. Behave yourself, unless you want to be fired. Selena leaned closer, her face only inches from his. Her words tumbled out with a laugh. You can't. You need me. You can't do this alone. I'm the best translator you'll ever have. Her giggles echoed as she nearly fell again. With a curse under his breath, Minjun's arms slid around her, lifting her effortlessly against his chest. His body tensed at the unwanted contact, but he had no choice. Where's her room? He snapped at one of his men as he strode out of the bar. The guard bowed quickly. Sir, there isn't one available yet. The hotel is full. Is she not meant to have a room prepared as my translator? Sorry, boss. I will look into it. The hefty man in suit bowed his head. Min Jun's jaw clenched. Against every instinct, against every rule he had made for himself, he carried her to his own suite. Inside, the lights were dim, the air heavy with silence. He laid her gently on the edge of his king-sized bed, pulling the sheets over her. He turned to leave. But then, her fingers wrapped weakly around his wrist. Don't leave me. The words were slurred, soft, childlike. Yet her touch seared through him like fire. His muscles tensed, irritation surging. He had already gone against his will to carry her. Now this? He pulled free, stepping toward the door. Go, she mumbled, eyes half shut, and I'll come find you myself. He froze, turned. For a long second, silence pressed between them. Then, with a sharp exhale, Minjun returned and lowered himself into the chair beside the bed. Selena rolled toward him, her voice a soft babble of drunken sweetness. You're not that scary, you know. Cold, yes. But scary? Not to me. Her sleepy eyes searched his face. She sat up slowly, unsteady, swaying toward him. Too close. Her warmth invaded his space. He pushed her back firmly. Stay still. I can't, she whispered, her lips curving. She leaned forward again, her breath warm against his skin. Before he could move, her lips brushed his, soft, fleeting, unexpected. Minjun's eyes widened. Shock, heat, and something dangerous flashed across his face. But Selena didn't notice. She had already collapsed against him, her head falling onto his shoulder, her breathing slow and steady in sleep. Minjun sat frozen, her weight warm against him, her lips' imprint still burning on his own. For the first time in years, the untouchable Mafia Lord felt his walls crack. The sharp ache in Selena's head was the first thing she noticed. Her eyes fluttered open to an unfamiliar ceiling, and slowly, the memory of last night's drunken blur hit her like a storm. She gasped, sitting up suddenly, her dress wrinkled, hair tousled. Oh God, did I really dance like that? Did I really kick that man? Did I? Her cheeks burned hot. I must have made a fool of myself. She could remember the kiss. She covered her face with both palms, groaning softly. Please tell me he didn't see everything. Please tell me I didn't embarrass myself in front of him, she whispered to herself. But before her prayers could finish, a deep voice cut through the silence. Get up now. I know you're awake. Her heart sank. Slowly, she peeked through her fingers, and there he was, Minjun, standing near the window, arms folded across his chest, his sharp eyes fixed on her. Selena scrambled to her feet, still covering her face with one hand as though it could hide her shame. Boss, she stammered, her voice tiny. Minjun's jaw tightened. With your reckless behavior and careless drinking yesterday, you are fired. The word hit her harder than the hangover. Instantly, her hand dropped from her face, her eyes widening in shock. No, please. Sir, I promise it won't happen again. I'll be more professional. He cut her off, his voice sharp and unforgiving. This is not a playground. You should be able to distinguish work from fun. Selena's eyes watered as she rushed forward, shaking her head. No, please don't do this. This job means everything to me. I can be better. I will be better. Just don't fire me. Minjun's expression didn't soften. If anything, it grew colder. Your pay will be wired into your account. That's the last you'll hear from me. Her knees buckled, but she steadied herself, desperation painting her every word. Please, Boss Min-jun, just one more chance. Don't decide like this. But he had already turned his back to her, striding toward the door. Without a glance, he left, the sound of the door clicking shut echoing louder than her pounding heartbeat. Selena stood frozen, tears threatening to spill. Her lips trembled as she whispered into the emptiness. Selena, you fool. What are you going to do? Selena sat on the hotel bed long after Min-jun left, her mind spinning. Her chest felt heavy, as if the world had caved in.
Fired. Just like that.
No discussion, no chance. She buried her face in her hands. What do I tell Mama now? What do I tell Papa? Oh Lord, I can't go back home with nothing. She forced herself to pack her things and leave the hotel quietly. Her head throbbed with every step, but her heart ached even worse. Meanwhile, Min-jun was in a private lounge with his men. His business partners had requested another round of discussions in the morning, a delicate negotiation with a French syndicate who didn't speak Korean. Boss, one of his lieutenants muttered, lowering his voice, we have no translator. None of us speak fluent French. If we mess this up, the deal collapses. Min-jun's eyes narrowed. He hated to admit it, but he knew the truth. Selena was the only one skilled enough to handle such complex talks. She's reckless, he said flatly. I don't want her near me again. Yes, boss, but she's the best, the man insisted. We can't afford mistakes. She might be the only one who can secure this deal. Min-jun's jaw flexed. He hated being cornered. Hated even more that the very woman who embarrassed herself last night was also the woman he needed most. Selena, meanwhile, was dragging her suitcase through the hotel lobby when two men in sharp suits blocked her path. Miss Selena? One asked with a heavy accent. She blinked. Yes. The French delegation requests your assistance in the meeting. They said only you can interpret accurately. Her heart skipped.
What? Me?
Before she could respond, Min-jun himself appeared, his cold eyes locking on hers. For a moment, the entire lobby seemed to freeze. He walked closer, his voice low but commanding. You're coming with me. Right now. Selena clutched her suitcase, hesitation flooding her. But you fired me. His gaze hardened. This isn't about what I want. It's about what I need. She swallowed nervously, her mind racing. He needed her, he admitted it without saying it outright. A small smile tugged at her lips despite her nerves. So, does this mean I still have my job? She teased softly. Min-jun glared at her, his voice clipped. Don't push your luck, Selena. Dear job, and we'll talk later. He turned on his heel, and though he never looked back, Selena followed him, dragging her suitcase, her heart pounding with a dangerous mix of relief, curiosity, and excitement. The French meeting ended smoothly, thanks to Selena's flawless translation. The deal was signed, the syndicate satisfied, and Min-jun's men relieved. But for Selena, the real meeting was only just beginning. She stood before Min-jun in his suite, her suitcase still by her side, her eyes soft and pitiful. Boss, she began carefully. He didn't look at her at first, just flipped through some files. You did well today. But don't think I've forgotten last night. Selena bit her lip and stepped closer. I'm begging you, sir.
Give me one last chance. I won't drink again.
I won't dance. I won't even smile if it means keeping this job. Finally, his dark eyes met hers, sharp as knives. One mistake, Selena. Just one more, and you're gone for good. She placed her hand over her chest and nodded quickly. I promise, boss. No mistakes. I'll make you proud. His gaze lingered on her, unreadable. Then he turned away. We'll see. Min-jun worked from home that night, his desk covered in contracts and reports. But his mind refused to stay on the numbers. Every time he tried to focus, he saw her face, her laugh, her drunken sweetness, and her lips. He leaned back in his chair, pressing his fingers against his temples, frustrated at himself. Why am I even thinking about this? He muttered. But the memory of her lips pressing against his, soft, warm, unexpected, replayed until his chest tightened. It was just an accident. She was drunk. It meant nothing. So, why did it feel like it meant something? Why can't he stop thinking of how she drunkenly kissed him? The next morning, Selena arrived early at the office, her usual bright smile dimmed into professional composure. She greeted him politely and began arranging the day's documents. Selena, Minjun's voice called, low and commanding. She straightened immediately. Yes, boss. Come closer. She obeyed, walking to his desk. His sharp eyes scanned her face, but this time they didn't stop there. They lowered, settling on her lips. He had seen many women in his life, but none had lips like hers, soft, full, almost dangerous. Before he could stop himself, his hand lifted. His fingers brushed lightly against her cheek, then drifted down until his fingertip grazed her lips. Selena froze, her wide eyes searching his face. Boss. For a moment, he was no longer Kong Minjun, the feared Mafia Lord. He was just a man caught off guard by a woman. Selena took a step back, confusion written all over her. Are you okay? The spell broke. His hand dropped. His jaw clenched, trying to mask what he had just done. Before either could say more, Selena's phone buzzed again and again. She glanced at the screen and sighed. Why don't you pick it up? Minjun asked, his tone sharper than intended. It's my boyfriend, she said softly, silencing the call. I'll call him back after work. Something shifted in his eyes, as though her words were a blow. Boyfriend. His voice was low, controlled, but dangerous. Why didn't you state that you were in a relationship? Selena blinked, caught off guard. I didn't think it was necessary, sir. It has nothing to do with work. She smiled faintly, though inside, she was unsettled by his sudden questions. And even more unsettled by the way he'd touched her lips. That evening, as Selena prepared to leave, her boyfriend arrived to pick her up. A tall, handsome Korean man, dressed neatly, with gentle eyes that lit up when he saw her. Selena, he called warmly, striding forward. He leaned in, kissing her cheek tenderly before taking her bag. Then, with perfect manners, he opened the car door for her. From the top floor, Minjun stood by his window, watching. The sight pierced him in a way he didn't understand, or didn't want to. His chest tightened, his fists clenched, and a foreign sting burned inside him. Could it be jealousy? He turned away sharply, muttering under his breath, Why do I even care? The thud of fists against leather echoed in the dimly lit gym. Minjun's body glistened with sweat, each movement sharp, precise, brutal. His tattoo stretched across his shoulder and down his arm, the ink dancing with every ripple of his muscle as he jabbed, ducked, and swung again. But no matter how many times his fists connected with a heavy bag, he couldn't shake the image that haunted him all weekend, Selena. Her lips curving into a playful smile. The warmth in her eyes when she translated his words with a hint of sass. And worst of all, the way that boy, her so-called boyfriend, had dared to press a kiss to her cheek. His chest tightened, and irritation surged through him. With a growl, he slammed his fist into the bag harder, the chains rattling violently from the impact. Pathetic, he muttered under his breath, sweat dripping down his temple. I don't do weakness. Yet that was exactly what she made him, vulnerable. He hated it. Hated how his thoughts drifted to her when he should have been focused on business, on strategy, on survival. Every punch he threw was a vow, a promise to himself. He would crush this distraction. He would rip Selena out of his mind the way he would rip out a rival's throat. Women are dangerous, he reminded himself, jaw clenching as he landed another blow. They cloud your judgment. They break your focus. And in my world, losing focus means death. He paused, breathing heavily, his knuckles raw against the wrapped fabric. Closing his eyes, he forced a long inhale, summoning the coldness that always kept him in control. No more, he hissed, his voice echoing in the empty gym. This ends now. I am Minjun. I don't bend. I don't break. I don't fall for anyone. But even as he spoke the words, Selena's laughter, soft, teasing, unforgettable, echoed in his mind, mocking him. His fury ignited again. With a roar, He drove his fist into the bag, the sound reverberating like thunder. It didn't matter. He would bury this weakness. He had to. Because the one thing Min-jun hated more than his enemies was being vulnerable to a woman. Monday arrived with the hum of chaos. The Mafia's headquarters buzzed with activity. Men and women in dark suits hurried across the marble lobby, phones rang off the hook, and orders flew left and right. Deals were being signed, deliveries tracked, meetings scheduled. At the center of it all sat Min-jun, sharp in a tailored black suit, his expression cold and unyielding. His presence commanded silence whenever he walked past, the weight of his authority pressing down on everyone. Selena, however, seemed unaffected. She moved at his side, her notebook in hand, jotting translations and notes with calm precision. She had learned quickly how his empire ran. Fast, brutal, efficient. "Keep up," Min-jun said sternly, his tone clipped as his eyes scanned a file. "I am keeping up," Selena replied smoothly, arching a brow. "It's not my fault you have. What for different moods before lunch?" Cold, colder, and freezing. Her lips curved into a playful smirk. "Honestly, working with you feels like riding a roller coaster blindfolded." The room stilled for a second. A few men dared to glance at her, their eyes wide in disbelief. No one spoke to their mafia that way. Min-jun's jaw tightened. For a moment, it looked like he might snap back. Instead, he closed the file with deliberate calm. "What did you say?" He walked towards her. "Nothing, sir," she swallowed. Selena only shook her head, muttering under her breath. Multiple moods in a day. He should really see a doctor. But her sass stayed with him. It followed him through every meeting, clung to his thoughts like smoke. And it ignited something dangerous. An exact opposite of what he wanted to feel. An hour later, Selena stood by the desk, reading out loud the translation of a contract, her tone sharp as always. Article 4, late delivery, means a 20% penalty. Article 5, supplier takes full responsibility if goods go missing. In other words, you don't trust anyone. Her smirk tugged at her lips. "No wonder you scare people. You change moods faster than the weather." Min-jun's eyes lifted, dark and unamused. "Read it properly." "I am," she teased. "You just don't like hearing the truth." In a sudden motion, he rose, closing the distance until her back brushed the desk. One hand pressed against the surface beside her, caging her in. "You talk too much," he growled. Her eyes sparked. "And I think you glare too much, boss." He said nothing. He just stared at her bold, beautiful eyes, his eyes locked on her full lips, his chest rising and falling as though he were waging war with himself. And then, without warning, he leaned in. Their mouths collided in a fierce, consuming kiss. Selena gasped, her notebook slipping from her hands as his strong arms wrapped around her, pulling her against him. His lips were hot, desperate, and demanding, and for a man who hated touch, Min-jun craved her as though she were oxygen. He kissed her once, twice, and then deeper, his mouth moving against hers with urgency, with hunger, with a tenderness buried beneath fire. For a moment, Selena melted, her fingers curling into his suit jacket, her body betraying her. The taste of him, the strength in his hold, it was intoxicating. But reality slammed into her chest. She shoved him back, her eyes wide with shock and anger. "What the hell was that for?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "I have a boyfriend, Mr. Min-jun." His dark gaze burned into hers, unflinching. "Didn't you know you had a boyfriend the night you kissed me?" Selena froze, her lips parting. "Dabua." "The night you were drunk," he said evenly, his voice rough. "You kissed me first." Her face went pale, disbelief washing over her. "No, I don't remember that." She shook her head quickly. "I'm sorry, I really can't remember. That was a mistake. Please don't do that again, sir." She gathered her things in a rush, her hands trembling as she avoided his piercing stare. Without another word, she hurried out, the door slamming shut behind her. Min-jun stood in the silence, his breathing ragged, his lips still tingling with the taste of her. His fists clenched, frustration boiling inside him. This wasn't the plan, he muttered harshly to himself. The plan was to avoid her, to bury this weakness. But then his gaze dropped to where her notebook had fallen on the floor, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. He exhaled shakily, admitting the truth that terrified him most. With her it's different. I want more. His chest tightened, but for the first time, Min-jun didn't fight it. He didn't push her away in his mind. Instead, he let the thought of her consume him, knowing he was already too far gone. Selena lay curled against Ji-hoon's chest, his arm draped lazily around her. He ran his fingers through her hair, massaging her scalp in slow, gentle motions. It should have felt comforting, safe, familiar, but her eyes were closed, and all she could see was Min-jun's face. All she could feel was his lips, rough, demanding, unforgettable. Her heart gave a wild skip at the memory. No one had ever kissed her that way before. Not even Ji-hoon. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once.
Why am I thinking about him?
She scolded herself. I'm with Ji-hoon.
This isn't right.
Guilt gnawed at her chest. She knew she had to be honest, to tell Ji-hoon what was eating at her. She drew in a breath, about to speak. Ji-hoon, I need to. But before she could finish, his lips pressed against her neck. His hand slid over her waist, pulling her closer. Babe, she murmured, tense. Can we not do this right now? I'm really not in the mood. She sat up, gently pushing his hand away. Ji-hoon frowned but leaned forward, trying again. His hand gripped her arm tighter this time. Selena, come on. I want you now. I can't resist you. Her stomach twisted. She pulled his hand off her, firmer now.
No.
I said I'm not in the mood. But Ji-hoon didn't stop. His grip turned rough, his weight pressing her back against the bed. His fingers tugged at her blouse, forcing the buttons open. Ji-hoon, she gasped, panic rising in her chest. She shoved at his shoulders, but he was stronger. Stop it. He ignored her protests, his breath hot against her cheek as he forced at her clothes. Fear surged through her, adrenaline kicking in. Selena fought harder, thrashing beneath him until she managed to land a sharp kick to his side. Ji-hoon groaned, loosening his grip just enough. Without wasting another second, she scrambled up, her blouse torn, tears burning her eyes. She bolted for the door, yanking it open and stumbling into the night. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she ran, her heart pounding in her chest, not from exertion, but from shock. Ji-hoon's voice echoed faintly behind her, but she didn't dare look back. All she knew was she had to get away from him. Selena sat curled on the couch in her small sitting room, her knees drawn up to her chest. The room was dark except for the soft glow of a lamp, shadows stretching across the walls. Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths, anger and confusion swirling inside her like a storm. How could Ji-hoon, her sweet, charming boyfriend of 7 months, turn into someone so unrecognizable? How could the man who used to hold her gently, whisper promises into her ear, try to force himself on her tonight? Her hands trembled as she picked up her phone. The ache in her chest was unbearable, but her resolve was sharp as glass. Her thumbs flew over the screen. Selena, we're done. Don't call me, don't text me. If you ever show up at my house or workplace again, I swear I'll involve the police. She stared at the words for a long moment, then hit send before she could second-guess herself. Her phone buzzed almost instantly, Ji-hoon's name lighting up the screen. She didn't even look at the message. One swipe, and his number was blocked. Selena dropped the phone beside her and buried her face in her palms, her shoulders shaking. She wasn't crying, not fully. It was something else, something fiercer. She was angry. Angry that he had betrayed her trust. Angry that he had made her feel unsafe in her own skin. And yet beneath that anger, a different name pressed against her thoughts. Min-jun. Her mind betrayed her, flashing back to the kiss in his office. The way his touch had burned, not with fear but with something dangerously addictive. Her heart skipped, shame colliding with longing. She hated that the memory of her mafia boss felt safer than the man she had been with for months. Selena sat back against the couch, staring blankly at the ceiling. Everything had changed in a single night, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Selena walked into the Mafia headquarters with her usual notebook in hand, but her steps lacked their usual bounce. Her eyes were tired, her expression guarded, and though she tried to mask it with a small smile, the weight of the night before clung to her like a shadow. She sat at her desk outside Minjun's office, forcing herself into routine, translating, typing, pretending everything was fine. But her fingers trembled slightly each time she touched the keyboard. Minjun noticed. Through the glass wall of his office, his sharp eyes tracked her every movement. She wasn't her usual self, the Selena who teased him, who challenged him, who filled the air with sass. Today she was quieter. Too quiet. When he finally stepped out, the room seemed to shrink under his presence. He stopped in front of her desk, his gaze heavy. "You're late," he said flatly. Selena looked up startled. She opened her mouth to defend herself, then closed it. "It won't happen again," she murmured, lowering her eyes. That answer wasn't like her. Normally, she'd snap back, roll her eyes, maybe even joke about his mood swings. But now, she just looked defeated. Min Jun's jaw tightened. He leaned down, resting one hand on her desk. His voice dropped so low only she could hear. "Who hurt you?" Selena's heart skipped. She froze, staring at him. "What are you talking about?" "No one." His eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me." For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick and unyielding. His gaze was piercing, as though he could peel back every layer she was trying so hard to hide. Selena forced a shaky laugh, closing her notebook. "I said no one. You're imagining things, boss. And I wonder when you started to care about such little things like me." She looked at him confusedly. "You are not part of those little things, Selena. As much as I hate to admit it, you are becoming too important." Minjun glared at her mischievously. Caught surprised by his words, she didn't clearly know what it meant, but out of jealousy. "The ladies that Minjun has not for once looked fixed their mean eyes on Selena." He said that too loud. And she hated public proposals or confessions even though it was from the Mafia himself. The evening air was cool, the streets alive with the usual hum of traffic and chatter. Selena stood at the bus stop, her bag slung across her shoulder, waiting patiently as the crowd thinned around her. She didn't expect to see the black car roll up beside the curb, its tinted windows sliding down to reveal the cold, unreadable eyes of Minjun. "Get in," he ordered. His voice carried that familiar authority, the one that made his men obey without question. Selena blinked. "Excuse me?" He opened the door, stepping out in his dark suit, his presence consuming the space. "I'll take you home." She crossed her arms, raising a brow. "Since when does the big bad Mafia Lord play chauffeur?" His lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Since now. And because I want to take you out." Her jaw dropped slightly. "Take me out? As in a date?" His gaze didn't waver. "Yes." Minjun leaned back in his chair, his eyes fixed on Selena as she scribbled notes with that usual stubborn focus of hers. She wasn't his type. Too outspoken, too playful, too ordinary compared to the polished women he usually kept around. She should have been invisible to him. She was the wrong girl. The exact opposite of his type of woman, the one he wasn't supposed to notice, but he did. Selena stared at him, trying to make sense of it.
"Why?"
"Is this about the kiss?" Minjun's silence stretched, and then he answered with the blunt honesty only he could carry. "I don't like being touched. I don't like touching anyone. But with you it's different. I find it weird, but I want to indulge in it." Selena scoffed, throwing her hands up. "That makes zero sense, sir. You want to date me because you like physical touch with me? That's your reason." His jaw tightened. "Yes." She blinked, stunned, then narrowed her eyes. "So, what, you just want my body? That's why you're asking me out?" He didn't flinch.
"Yes."
"Because I don't want anyone else's. Only yours." Her breath caught, not from flattery, but from disbelief. "Absurd," she muttered. "That's not enough reason for me to be with someone." She took a step back, shaking her head. Are you seriously asking me for some kind of friends with benefits arrangement? Min Jun's gaze held hers, steady and unapologetic. Not really, but yes. Selena's face hardened.
No.
I can't. And I don't do such things. Without waiting for his response, she turned on her heel, walking away toward the bus pulling up to the stop. Inside, her thoughts spiraled in anger. Because of physical touch? That's all he wants? What was I expecting from a Mafia Lord of all people? Her chest tightened as Ji-hoon's face flashed in her mind, the man who had tried to force himself on her just the night before. And now her boss, powerful, intimidating Min Jun, standing there asking to be with her only because he craved her body. Men are trash, she muttered under her breath, her eyes burning as she stepped onto the bus. All of them, even my mafia boss. And though she tried to push the thought away, the memory of Min Jun's kiss still lingered, refusing to let her go. The mop clattered against the wall as Selena dropped it, wiping sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. Her apartment smelled faintly of bleach, but the music blasting from the MP3 speaker had kept her sane through the long hours of scrubbing and dusting. For the past 3 hours she had been dancing more than cleaning, hips swaying to Rihanna's Work and Cardi B's Up. Her laughter filled the room as she twirled in the middle of her sitting room, trying to dance away the frustration and confusion of the past few weeks. Ji-hoon, Min Jun, men, all the chaos. Forget them, she muttered to herself, spinning once more with her waist rolling in rhythm, sweat glistening on her skin. Just then, her phone buzzed violently on the table. She groaned, half expecting another annoying text from Ji-hoon, using an unknown number, but the name that flashed across the screen made her freeze. Min Jun. Her breath caught. What did he want? On a Saturday? She swiped to answer. Hello. His deep voice thundered through the line, leaving no space for pleasantries. Be in my villa. 15 minutes. She blinked, stunned. Sir, is there a problem? Silence. Then a curt reply. 15 minutes. The line went dead. Selena stared at her phone, mouth half open. What the hell? She muttered. She dialed back, but of course he didn't answer. It's the weekend, not a work day, she said aloud to herself, annoyed at the audacity of the man. But still, her hands moved quickly, grabbing a towel. She sighed heavily. Of course he wouldn't care if it's a weekend. Mafia lords don't exactly follow HR rules. 10 minutes later, steam rose from the bathroom as she stepped out in fresh clothes, hair still damp from the shower. She caught her reflection in the mirror, pausing for a moment. What could he possibly want from me this time? She hailed a taxi and slid into the back seat, her heart racing faster than the city traffic. With each turn of the wheels toward his villa, the tall iron gates of Min Jun's villa swung open, and Selena stepped out of the taxi, her annoyance mounting with each step she took. She had expected chaos, an emergency, maybe even danger. Instead, when she entered the grand living room, Min Jun was calmly seated at the long glass table, files spread before him. Without looking up, he spoke in his usual commanding tone. Translate these contracts into English and mark every clause about international shipments. I want a clean summary. Selena's jaw dropped. She picked up one of the thick documents and scanned through it. This is for the next 3 months, she said, incredulous. It's not urgent. His eyes lifted slowly to meet hers, dark and sharp. Don't question me. Just do it. Her lips parted, ready to argue, but something in his tone silenced her. She pulled out her laptop with an exaggerated sigh, plopping down in the seat opposite him. Unbelievable, she muttered under her breath. But Min Jun wasn't really watching the documents. He was watching her. Her brows knitted in concentration, her lips pursed, the faint irritation written across her face. It amused him. She was pissed, but even in her frustration, she was captivating. A corner of his mouth twitched upward. Selena noticed and frowned. Why are you smiling? Your angry face, he replied smoothly. You look like a cute chipmunk. She blinked, taken aback. Did Min Jun, the ruthless mafia boss, just smile because of her again, This was the second time she saw his scarce smile. Her cheeks grew warm, and she quickly looked back at the screen, hiding behind a scoff. Minutes ticked by in silence before he asked, "Have you eaten breakfast?" Her head snapped up. "Don't bother. You already stole my weekend." Ignoring her protest, he pulled out his phone, ordered something, and within 15 minutes the villa doorbell rang. He slid a glance her way.
Go. Get it.
She gave him a glare but obeyed, returning with neatly packaged food. When he insisted she sit at the dining table, her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. Mortified, she pressed her hand against it, but Min-jun only smirked. "Eat," he said simply. Reluctantly, she joined him. The rich aroma filled the room, and as she took her first bite, her shoulders relaxed despite herself. "You are beautiful. You are the best at what you do," Min-jun said suddenly, his voice low but steady. "You work hard, too hard. I notice things, Selena." The words landed softly, unexpectedly. She looked up at him. For a moment, the mafia boss wasn't her terrifying employer. He was a man, sitting across from her, speaking as if he saw her beyond the surface.
Their eyes locked.
Neither spoke. 10 seconds stretched like an eternity, the air between them heavy with something unspoken. Selena felt her pulse quicken. She was the first to break away, clearing her throat and focusing back on her food. "You're weird. Sometimes you are hard. Sometimes you are soft. You are mysterious," she muttered. "Mafias are mysterious," he winked at her. By the time the sun began to dip, Selena packed her things to leave. She walked to the door, but Min-jun followed, stopping just a step behind her. When she turned to say goodbye, she found herself caught in the closeness. Their faces were only inches apart. His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then back to her eyes. She could feel his breath, warm and steady, brushing against her skin. Neither moved, but the tension was palpable. The air seemed to hum with unspoken desire, the kind of pull that no words could explain. This was crazy. The man that almost sacked her, because of mistakenly touching him, was the one moving really close to her now. Selena's throat went dry. She took a shaky step back, fumbling for the door handle. "Good night, boss," she whispered, her voice softer than she intended. Min-jun didn't reply. He only watched her, his eyes unreadable, but his clenched jaw betrayed the battle he was fighting within himself. As she slipped out the door, Selena's heart pounded in her chest. She hadn't kissed him, but it felt like she had. And that was even more dangerous. Monday morning felt different the moment Selena walked into the Mafia's headquarters. Instead of heading toward her tiny corner office with peeling paint and a squeaky chair, one of Min-jun's men stopped her. "This way, Miss Selena," he said with a polite bow, guiding her down a polished corridor she rarely walked through. When the heavy door opened, her eyes widened. The office was spacious, airy, and breathtakingly luxurious. Soft blush walls, a wide oak desk, velvet curtains in a deep shade of pink. Even the shelves had been arranged neatly with books and a fresh vase of lilies on the table. It looked nothing like her old space. It looked like her style. Selena blinked. "What in the world?" The man smiled faintly. "The boss made this office for you." Her heart gave a small, traitorous skip, but she quickly shook it off. Why would Min-jun do this? Not wasting a second, she marched straight to his office. Min-jun was seated behind his desk, crisp suit jacket draped over his shoulders, typing something on his laptop. He barely lifted his eyes when she entered. "Why did you change my office?" she asked, planting both hands on his desk. Without looking up, he answered simply, "You deserve better." Selena stared at him, stunned by the ease of his response. She walked closer, lowering her voice. "If you think giving me a luxurious office will make me sleep with you, it won't work." That made him pause. He raised his head, his dark eyes locking on hers, sharp and unflinching. His jaw tightened. "I could have any woman I want, Selena," he said evenly. "But I don't want them. I want you." Her breath caught, but she forced a scoff, stepping back.
"Right.
"Because I'm the only one who doesn't throw herself at you." She turned toward the door. "Thank you for the office." "Really?" Before she could leave, His voice stopped her. Have dinner with me tonight. Selena looked back, one brow arched. I'd prefer a club. Drunk wants me tonight. The corner of his lips curved into a rare smile. You want to get drunk so you can have the opportunity to kiss me again? Her cheeks heated instantly. I can't even remember that. Don't bother. I remember enough for both of us, he teased. Selena crossed her arms, trying to mask her embarrassment. Well, I won't be coming. Min-jun leaned back, eyes glinting with amusement. Relax. I'm teasing. Meet me at 9. His tone shifted to a command, not a request. She shook her head, muttering under her breath as she left, but he kept his eyes on her retreating figure. When the door closed, Min-jun exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. He rarely smiled. He rarely even felt lightness, but Selena had managed to pull it out of him. She was bringing back a side of him he thought was long gone, the side that had died with his mother. The world thought Kong Min-jun was untouchable. Cold. Untouchable. But behind that mask lived memories he couldn't erase. He remembered being a boy, no older than 7, clinging to his mother's hand in a dark hallway. She had been the only one who touched him gently, the only warmth in a home ruled by violence and fear. Min-jun, no matter what happens, remember, you're not alone, she had whispered, brushing his hair back with trembling fingers. But that was the last night he ever felt her touch. She died in a bloody crossfire meant for his father. And from then on, every hand that reached for him came with pain. And he couldn't deny it anymore. Selena made him feel alive. The club pulsed with a colorful glow and deep bass, but the moment Selena stepped in, Min-jun forgot the noise around him. She looked different. The kind of different that turned every head in the room. Her fitted red bed dress hugged her curves, her red lipstick glowed under the lights, and her hair framed her face like she was born to own the night. She had the gift of transformation. Today she wasn't just Selena, the translator. Tonight, she was the main character. Min-jun's sharp eyes scanned the club. He noticed men turning, their gazes lingering too long, their whispers betraying admiration. His jaw tightened. She belonged with him tonight, and everyone else needed to know it. Come, he said, taking her hand. His tone left no room for argument. On the dance floor, the world slowed. The crowd blurred into shadows, the music a distant thrum. His hand found the curve of her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space between them. Her body pressed against his, warm and intoxicating. They moved slowly, each step deliberate, like they weren't dancing but breathing each other in. Min-jun leaned closer, his lips brushing near her ear. You smell nice. Selena tilted her head, smiling softly at him. Their eyes locked, breath mingling, hearts racing. He leaned in, lips hovering near hers, but she pulled back just before their mouths could meet. Min-jun arched a brow. You're playing hard to get? Selena smirked faintly. I don't want a man who's just after my body. His eyes darkened. I'm not. I genuinely like you, Selena. Her smile faded into something more serious. Prove it. How? He asked, his voice low. I do anything you ask, he added, meaning every word. Selena shook her head, her eyes hazy with alcohol. Don't worry, she whispered drunkenly. Min-jun frowned. You're so lightheaded. 2 shots of Don Julio and you're drunk. She bit her lower lip, teasing him. Isn't that attractive? His jaw clenched. Damn, it is, Selena. Her giggle was faint, her head tilting against his chest. I feel sleepy, she murmured before her legs gave way. Min-jun caught her instantly, cradling her as if she were something fragile. Without hesitation, he carried her out, ignoring the stairs, and drove her straight to her apartment. Inside, he laid her gently on her bed, pulling the blanket over her. He turned to leave, but her voice, soft and slurred, stopped him. Don't go. She pushed herself up, wobbling slightly. Are you sure? He asked, his tone careful, his eyes searching hers. Yes, she whispered, wrapping her arms around him and climbing into his lap with surprising boldness. She pressed soft kisses on his cheek, then lower, brushing her lips against his neck. Each kiss sent shivers racing down Min-jun's spine, a feeling so foreign it almost scared him. Selena, his voice broke slightly as he placed her back down on the bed. Are you teasing me on purpose? Yes, she said with disarming confidence, her fingers tracing from his abdomen up to his chest, then curling around his neck. Her lips pressed softly against his neck, then finally captured his mouth. I'm done teasing you, she whispered against his ear, her voice sultry. She pulled away with a wicked glint in her eyes. You can go now. She turned as if to walk away, but Min-jun's hand shot out, gripping her wrist firmly. Don't do that to me, Selena. In one swift motion, he pulled her back, crashing his lips onto hers. This kiss was different, hungry, consuming, the kind that made the world fall away. She melted into him, answering his urgency with equal fire. His hands roamed her body, hers tangled in his hair, and within moments, they tumbled onto the bed, tangled in sheets, giving in to the desire they had both been fighting. That night, they crossed the line neither of them could ever return from. Morning light seeped through the curtains, painting the room in soft gold. Min-jun sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded, watching Selena breathe. Her lashes fluttered, lips parting in a peaceful half-smile, so different from the woman who'd barged into his life with sass and fire. For a moment, the world narrowed to the quiet rise and fall of her chest. She stirred and opened her eyes, catching him mid-watch. Her cheeks heated with embarrassment. Gosh, did you watch me sleep? She asked, half laughing, half annoyed. Yes, he said simply, voice low. And I enjoyed it. Don't flatter me, she muttered, turning her face away, but unable to hide the blush that warmed her neck. He reached out, gentle as if handling glass, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Selena, he began, and when he said her name it sounded softer than she'd ever heard it from him. Be my girl. She blinked, startled into silence. He took a breath, the confession coming out like something he'd kept locked up for too long. What we had last night, he didn't say just last night. I enjoyed it. More than that, you make me smile. You make me feel alive. I haven't felt like this since forever. Only you have that power on me. Will you be my girlfriend? Selena searched his face, trying to read the truth beneath the armor. Are you sure this isn't just because of last night? Her voice trembled with honest confusion. Min-jun's gaze hardened with earnestness. Never. I'm not someone who says things lightly. If it would convince you, I could marry you now. The words landed with surprising gravity. It wasn't a joke, and the room hummed with the weight of it. Selena laughed then, a small, shocked sound, her fingers covering her mouth as color rose in her cheeks. Oh no, let's take it slowly, she said, trying to steady her voice. He leaned forward, a crooked smile teasing the corners of his mouth. Is that a yes? She bit her lower lip, thinking of the chaos behind her, Ji-hoon, the betrayal, the mess of her heart, and of the quietness she felt with Min-jun. Maybe, she whispered. Come on, Selena. His tone was coaxing, patient. She let out a breath and folded in on herself a little, then looked at him with a shy, crooked grin. Okay, I will be your girlfriend. Something like relief and triumph flashed across his face. He gathered her into his arms with a grip that was equal parts possessive and adoring, pressing small, reverent kisses along her jaw and the inside of her arm. Selena laughed, surrendering to the warmth that bloomed between them. An hour later, hand in hand, they stepped out, his coat over her shoulders, her hair still tousled from sleep, as he drove them toward a quiet cafe to steal a breakfast. They had only reached the villa's front steps when a figure blocked their path. Ji-hoon stood on the doorstep. Ji-hoon's voice cut the air like a knife. Selena. It was not a greeting. Ji-hoon's eyes blazed as he stared at their intertwined fingers. So, this is why you left me? Because of this rich mafia? Selena's lips tightened, irritation flashing across her face. No, Ji-hoon. I left you because you tried to force yourself on me. Min-jun turned sharply to her, disbelief darkening into fury. He did that. His voice was low, dangerous. Selena nodded firmly. I warned you, Ji-hoon. I told you if you ever came near me again, I would call the police. Wasn't that clear enough? Ji-hoon's expression faltered, his tone softening. I'm sorry, Selena.
Please.
Let's go home. But when she turned away, his voice rose into a frantic shout, echoing against the villa walls. She's mine. Selena belongs to me. The scene erupted. Min Jun's glare cut sharper than a knife. Take him away, he ordered coldly. Two men appeared instantly, seizing Ji-hoon by the arms. He fought back, his cries desperate, raw. Selena! Selena! I love you! Don't leave me for him. Selena froze, her heart pounding as his voice grew distant, dragged away into the morning air. Min Jun squeezed her trembling hand, pulling her close. You're safe with me, he said firmly, though his jaw was tight with barely contained rage. Ji-hoon's screams faded into the distance as Min Jun's men dragged him away, but the echo still clung to Selena's heart like smoke. She let out a shaky breath, her hand still trembling in Min Jun's grasp. Don't listen to him, Min Jun said firmly, his voice softer now, protective. You don't belong to anyone. Not even to me. You're free to walk away, Selena. She turned to him, her eyes wide. Why would you say that? He searched her face, his usually cold gaze vulnerable for once. Because I know what it feels like to be trapped, to have no choice. I would rather lose you than see you feel caged by me. Selena's chest tightened. In that moment, she realized this wasn't the ruthless Mafia Lord everyone feared. It was just a man, scarred and lonely, finally letting his heart breathe again. She stepped closer, their foreheads nearly touching. But what if I don't want to walk away? What if I choose you? For the first time in years, Min Jun's lips curved into a real smile, small but genuine. He kissed her hand gently, not out of desire, but reverence. Then you'll never walk alone again. Weeks later, in her new office, sunlight streaming through the wide windows, Selena looked up from her desk to find Min Jun leaning on the doorway, watching her. No mafia guards, no shadows, just him. Why are you smiling like that? She teased. Because, he said, stepping in and pulling her into his arms, I never thought I'd find peace again. And it came to me in the form of a stubborn translator who can't dance to save her life. Selena laughed, hitting his chest lightly. Shut up. You love my dancing. I love everything about you. Their lips met, not in urgency, but in the slow, deep kiss of two people who had finally found where they belonged. Outside, the world whispered rumors about the Mafia Lord who had fallen for an ordinary woman. But inside that office, it was simple, two hearts, scarred and mended, promising forever in silence. And for once, Selena believed it.
The end.
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more love stories full of passion, drama, and unforgettable twists.